Welcome to Watch Symposium. I'm Austin. Let's talk about the big change in policy at RSC Japan. That's the Rolex Service Center here in Japan. There was a big change in 2021 and we're going to go into it. First, wristwatch check. I'm actually wearing the Timex Q, and this is a watch that came up during the Tokyo Station live show with Marcel. And this is a great watch. I wouldn't have wanted to pay $400 or $500 for it, but a great watch. And I'm wearing this watch because I'm testing the power reserve on the newly serviced Tudor Hydronaut. Link in the description if you haven't seen the video about that watch. I want to wind it from, the resting position and see how it feels. Sometimes watches, even though they have the same movement, have slightly different feels when you wind them. And so I want to check all that out, and I'm letting it wind down at the moment. While I do that, I have this watch, and I'm actually really enjoying it. All right, so let's talk about this big change. Before we do, let's talk about the way things were prior to 2021 at RSC. And this change has to do with parts. If you took a watch in and you had parts changed out, if it was a different part, you could get it back. Let me give you an example. If you took in a GMT Master 2 with a beat up Pepsi insert and you wanted a new insert, you paid for it, you wouldn't get back that old insert. You can only have one Pepsi insert at a time, all right? So they would keep the old insert, you'd pay for the new one, again, you'd lose that older insert. It could be an original insert, so that wasn't so great. Now, if it was a different color, then you could keep the old one, meaning if you brought in your GMT Master 2 16710 and it had a Pepsi insert and you wanted a Coke insert, you would give them the watch. You had to give them the watch to prove you had it, and so they could actually put it on. They wouldn't just sell you the insert, and they would put the Coke insert, the new insert, on your GMT Master 2. That would be about $100. They'd charge you $50 for labor. You'd get back the watch with the new insert in it, and you would get a little case with the old Pepsi insert in it. And other countries are different. I know Vietnam will only let you have one insert at a time. So if you change out your Pepsi insert for a Coke insert, then you would pay for the new insert, but you would lose the old insert. That Pepsi insert would be taken by them, never to return, all right? So the system was pretty good here. You could get all the inserts and it didn't cost any money. Here's the big change. To get the old parts, it's 40%. You got to pay 40% of the cost of the insert. So in our example, if you take in a GMT Master 2 with a Pepsi insert, have a Coke put on, you'll be paying for the new insert, $100. You'll be paying $50 labor. And then to get that old Pepsi insert that you had changed out back, you'll be paying 40% of the price of an insert, which would be $40. So it would change the price from about 150 USD to 190 to get exactly what you could get and have done in 2020 and prior. All right, so not really that great of a change. This applies to inserts, dials, but thankfully it doesn't apply to bracelets. All right, so if you take in your Oyster bracelet at GMT, have a Jubilee put on, you can just get back your Oyster bracelet. They're not going to charge you 40% of the cost of an Oyster bracelet, which would be crazy. That'd be hundreds of dollars, all right? Now, I ask about this, and this is the good aspect. You're able now to get back older parts of the same variety, okay? And that wasn't possible before. So again, in my example, if you took in your old beat up Pepsi insert, had a new Pepsi insert put on, you couldn't double up. You couldn't get that old Pepsi insert, all right? They would take that away. Now you can pay 40%, you can get that back. You can have your old insert and the new insert. That is awesome because inserts can be original and they can be different. And if you have, a pre-2000s GMT Master 2 is going to have very likely the serifed inserts. And so to lose that for a non-serif, sans serif insert, kind of unfortunate. Also, if you're having tritium hand serviced, they switch out the hands, then they'll put on Luminova hands, but you can get back those tritium hands. Now, I need to confirm this, but I asked, and that seems to be the case. Now, I don't know if this rule applies to every single part, because they replace the crowns on watches always. I mean, that's one thing that they always replace, and it costs about $80 to replace the crown, and you'll always get a new crown during the service, and the old one's gone. Now, can you pay $32 and get your old crown back? Well, maybe. I mean, by their rule logic, yes, but I'm not sure they're going to let you do that. But maybe. I'll have to ask about it. Would you want for $32 the old crown? I don't think I would pay for it. Maybe, maybe not. I mean, look, I think there are original parts, there are service parts, and there are who cares parts. And original parts are sort of like your serifed bezel insert. I mean, you know the difference between that and a service part. A service part is a service part. You know, for example, the sans serif insert. And then you got the who cares parts. You can't even tell the difference. So that would be like a crown. It's not really, quote, original, but there's no difference, so who cares? But I mean, if you really want everything and you're willing to pay $32 for that old crown, maybe you can do it. I need to check about that. So again, this is a good thing. Let's look at a real life example. All right, you're looking at an actual custom document from RSC Japan. This is something I got when I gave them the Tudor Iconaut. Let me open it and show it to you. Now, you'll notice a mix of both printed and handwritten text. And let me just bring your attention to this handwritten part right here. Now, this was written by an actual RSC employee. Now, no telling what I could get for this on eBay. Granted, this was written by a man, unfortunately. I couldn't get top dollar, which is what handwriting from one of the female employees over at RSC would fetch. But, you know, you're looking at a bit of retirement here in the future for me when this goes up on eBay. But let's take a look at it. We're just talking about the differences between 2020 and 2021 in terms of the cost to get back parts, and talking about the Tudor Iconaut. This has to do with the dial, all right? And so you got two types. You got collection and return. Collection is when they take the older part. So in the collection scenario, they would take my silver dial that the Iconaut had and put on the gray dial, and I would pay 39,600 yen, which is about 400 USD for the new dial, lose the old dial. But I could have the old dial returned, and that would be the cost. And basically it's this plus 40% equals this, okay? And then you got hands, and that's another issue, and I'm going to go into that. That's kind of interesting. I've got some decisions to make. That's in a coming video. But if I lose the old hands, then 13,000 yen, about $130 just for those new hands. If I want those old hands back, 18,326 yen, about 180 USD. And then you've got a part here for the date disc and a day disc. Now, there's not a change there in the color, but if you have, for example, a day date, and you know, it's going to be different on Rolex watches for sure, but then if the date disc and the day disc are a different color, then you'd have to, you know, pay for the new one. And if you want the old one, then that would be the cost there. And then labor to have this done, 39,600 yen. That's about 400 USD. And that's just to have them switched out, okay? Which, yeah, I would wait for an overhaul, and we'll get into that. But you can see that if I just want to have the dial changed, 92,290 yen, that's about 900 USD, more or less. They would take the old dial, all right? Bye-bye silver dial. That would be a disaster because I love that silver dial. So 113,366 yen. That's about $1,100 to get that dial back, that silver dial back. Now, the reason I was able to acquire this handwritten bit was that I asked about, well, what if I don't want to pay labor? What if I just want to have the thing overhauled? And this is the cost of the overhaul. So basically, you take this away, all right, and you pay this, and you get the overhaul, which is what I do because what? It's about $120 more, and you get the warranty. And I don't know if that's including a polish or not. We'll see the breakdown once the estimate comes in the mail, but that seems to be the way to go. So you can see right here that prior to 2021, it would cost about 200 USD less to switch out the dial, okay? Because this is the way it used to be, right? And you didn't have to pay this return fee of 40% for these parts. All right, there you go. Now, it's pretty straightforward when the parts are the same price. If you're talking about a bezel insert on a GMT Master 2, they're all the same no matter the color, whether you're talking all black, Pepsi, Coke, it doesn't really matter. But sometimes dials are different. And so my dial was 600 USD. The other dials are about 260. So if you're having, for example, an expensive dial like a mother of pearl dial switched out to something less expensive, it's going to hurt a little bit more. I would have to, if I was going, for example, a yellow hydronaut dial, to get that mother of pearl dial in hand after the service, I'd have to pay 40% of 600 USD, which is kind of a lot of money. But it seems to me if you're having a mother of pearl dial put into, for example, a watch with a yellow dial that costs 260, you'd pay less, because to get that yellow dial, you'd be paying 40% of the price of 260. I think, I don't know if what they do is they look at the new dial and they say 40% of that, or they look at the old dial and what it would cost to get it and say 40% of that. Not quite sure. So not quite straightforward, but I think that's the way it would be. I think you'd be paying 40% of the dial you got back. All right, let me know what you think about this change. For me, I kind of like it in the sense that I can get the older parts and I don't have to worry about losing tritium hands now. That's awesome. But if you're looking to acquire all the bezel inserts going forward, then it's going to cost you a little bit more. So let me know what you think about the change. Thanks for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.